Jātaka number 012 or 12, Nigrodhamiga Jātaka, and we will be looking into its commentary, and then we will be exploring what does the sub-commentary add to the commentary. We will have 45 minutes, so now only 42 minutes I will have 42 minutes to present for you the story, the commentary, and then the additional information that we can find in the sub-commentary, and then we will have 15 minutes for discussion. So if you have any questions during this time, please do not turn on your microphone. Instead, write it in the chat box or write it for yourself somewhere so you don't forget it. And then during the remaining 15 minutes, be ready to ask me. Okay. So let's look at it right away. I have prepared for you a kind of presentation, which is more of a eye candy rather than a classic presentation with the help of AI. But even though I will be showing you some things, I will be telling you things that are not in the presentation, so please pay attention to what I'm telling you as well. At this moment, I cannot actually share the screen. Somehow it's not turned on. Okay, that's better. All right, so here we have it. So the story of Nigrodhamiga Jātaka, which is named according to the deer. Nigrodha is the name, or banyan, it's a kind of tree. In English, we say banyan, in Pali, Nigrodha. Miga is a deer. So this Jātaka takes as its hero a golden deer named Nigrodha. This deer will later become the Buddha. So we call him the Buddha to be Bodhisattva. In Sanskrit, they call it Bodhisattva, but in Pali we say Bodhisatta. So be careful about that. So I'll be using only the word Bodhisatta or Buddha to be to stick to the roots of Theravada Buddhism. And the story, however, starts with the so-called present life. That means the life of the Buddha, the last life of the Buddha, and the events that happened in relation to the story, which then follows later. So at that time, during the Buddha's time, there was a young lady, young rich lady, and her parents, they wanted her to get married. But this lady saw her body as repulsive, so she didn't want to get married. Then her parents made some pressure, and out of her respect towards her parents, she agreed and she got married. So we learn from already in the beginning an interesting cultural thing, and that is that traditionally a lady who is married to a man is expected to serve the man. And here to really exalt or maybe praise the lady's extraordinary humbleness, we learn that the lady took her husband as a deity, as a god. So that's why we read the word Pati Devata. So Pati is the husband, Devata means God, and here Pati Devata means that she took her husband as a deity. So she was very respectful, and she supported her husband in anything and everything to make him happy. The lady, therefore, was not only she was not only dedicated to the truth, to the virtue, to the humbleness, but she was also dedicated to her husband. As she was married, she contemplated the reality of her body, and we therefore learn already from the commentarial story about repulsiveness of the body. And it was this repulsiveness of the body that she perceived that later resulted in her becoming a nun. So the lady is with her husband. It seems that they do enjoy certain sensual pleasures. We will get to that soon. But at the same time, she is actually very much concerned about the way how she's using her body, and she wants to make use of her life in the most effective way possible. Now, the story actually lists for us the 32 parts of the body, and we will see in other stories that the repulsiveness of the body is taken not only as something that's good to reflect on or something that's very important or useful, but also we learn that meditation on repulsiveness of the body is a kind of, or that's what it seems to me, shortcut to enlightenment. Especially if the meditator goes to a cemetery, to a charnel ground, and in the charnel ground they observe dying human body, and as they are observing the dying human body, they become fully enlightened. So repulsiveness of the body, especially in the commentaries, seems to be the #1 method to become enlightened. Additionally, the commentaries provide a kind of encouragement to their reader, who is expected to be monks, or so it seems to me. They provide a kind of encouragement to monks to actually practice observing repulsiveness of the body. Because through observing repulsiveness of the body, through understanding the nature of the body, the monks actually then can continue staying as the monks. We can read in our scriptures that sometimes observing the body as repulsive, such as in the charnel ground, leads to the completely opposite extreme, where the monks actually fall in love with the skeleton and with the decaying body. But I believe that those were very special exceptions. In most cases, the monks, through meditation repulsiveness of the body, would become fully enlightened. Okay, so now as the lady was contemplating her body, at one point when she had the opportunity, she asked her husband that she wants to become a nun, and her husband, who saw that she is an excellent woman, that she does the best she can ever for her husband. The husband, fortunately, was a kind person, and he led her to become a nun. She became a nun, but by the time she became a nun, she noticed that she is pregnant. In fact, it was her friends, nuns, who noticed that she's pregnant. She herself, being so much preoccupied with the repulsiveness of the body, did not, in fact, notice that she was pregnant by the time she was becoming a nun. And at that time, because she was somehow in the group of Devadatta, and we are supposed to call him Venerable Devadatta according to our oldest Tipitaka Dhara today. So Venerable Devadatta. But notice here a very interesting note that our scriptures never call Venerable Devadatta as Venerable Devadatta. They always call him Devadatta. Whenever you have Devadatta, you can notice if you read in Pali, the word Ayasma is not there. But for all other monks, the word Ayasma is there. That's a little note that I have noticed when I memorized the scriptures. So Venerable Devadatta, or Devadatta as you wish, he saw that one of his students is pregnant and he was worried about his reputation. So he discarded her and he asked her to become a layperson again. And he believed that she actually broke one of the most important rules, and that is that she had a sexual intercourse as a nun. Then she moved to the Buddha's group, and the Buddha showed her his compassion, and he had Visakha and Anathapindika, his lay supporters, to verify whether she is really pregnant since the time she became a nun, or actually from the time before that. We believe the Buddha had the psychic powers to actually know it himself very well. So he did all this verification to satisfy everyone and to avoid unnecessary suspicions. And indeed, the reliable, objectively observing people, they could clearly see that indeed she was pregnant already from the time before she became a nun. And that purified her from all accusations, and that's how we see the problem resolved. The monks were then surprised. That's awesome how the Buddha is so wise, how he actually saved this lady. She then gave birth to the child, and the child later became an arahant. The lady also became an arahant. So the Buddha then told to the monks the story from a previous life where something like that happened as well. And in that previous life, the Buddha was a golden deer, and he was in a nice park, and they had a king who loved the meat of deer, also called venison. And this venison, this meat, was not enough for the king. There were days when there was no venison available, so the king got this amazing idea that they could actually have the deer in a kind of cattle shed. They could have them raised in a protected area where they could simply find them and kill them. And because at that time the deer could speak with human, they could make an agreement that every day there will be one deer to come to the chopping block, to the butcher's block, and put their head so that they're killed. And one day it happened that the deer who had to be killed was actually a pregnant doe. So at that time also, just like during the Buddha's time, you had two factions of the deer, one with the Buddha to be and one with Devadatta to be. And so this pregnant deer happened to be in the faction of Devadatta to be, and Devadatta to be did not agree to help the pregnant doe. He said, okay, now it's your turn, so you have to go and have yourself slaughtered for the king, because this is your turn, and I don't care that you're pregnant. So then the deer, the pregnant doe, went up to the Buddha to be, to the Nigrodha deer, and she got help. Nigrodha deer saw indeed that he cannot actually suggest anybody else to go there instead of her, but he could go there instead of her. So he went up and offered himself to the king to be slaughtered. So what I see here in this story is that while the Buddha to be is living together with somebody also called Nemesis, basically kind of enemy who's there always with you and who is always keeping you in check. So as the Buddha to be was there with Devadatta, he was not actually angry. He was not blaming the Devadatta to be the deer. He was not saying that nobody cares about his problems. You know what? I have my problems. Why are you disturbing me? Oh, you do. Why don't you resolve your problem? And you, Devadatta to be, why can't you be a little more intelligent to resolve your problems yourself? And so on. So we don't see there any such blame. We don't see there any stress, any trouble, well, like mental trouble. We don't see there any blame, any anger, any insult. No. The Buddha to be is there ready to resolve the problem. No need for anger, no need for insults, not at all. No need for self-pity or whatever else. So the Buddha to be here in this story is clearly showing us that even when we live with somebody who is causing us troubles, we do not have to blame them. We do not have to insult them. We can actually simply live and do the best we can. And that's exactly what the Buddha did here. He did the best he could to help the dough. But of course, because he's the Buddha to be here, he is ready to sacrifice his life for the good of another. So the Buddha to be there is showing his compassion. And he will be using his compassion not only for the dough. The Buddha to be, as well as the Buddha, they are very clever to make use of any problem, any difficulty for the benefit of as many beings as possible. So that, I think, is the interesting twist. So not only that the Buddha to be, does not insult others or blame them when they have a problem, they try to see how they can actually turn a problem into an extraordinary advantage. And that's exactly what we can read here in this story. And of course, then later during the Buddha's time, he turned that opportunity of having this pregnant lady to come to him as an awesome opportunity to actually help her to become an arahant and to have her child arahant as well, because this is something they would not have been able to achieve if they stayed with Devadatta or Venerable Devadatta. So here as well, but here it was much larger, on a larger scale, because the deer who then went to the chopping block, because he actually received the immunity of the king and the butcher, they would not kill him because that was the promise already from the beginning. And instead, they were asking him how come that he is coming to get himself killed. So he explained about the pregnant deer, about the pregnant doe, and the king appreciated so much. He was so surprised by the humility, by the compassion, by the self-sacrifice of the Buddha to be, that he offered the Buddha to be that he will not kill either the Buddha to be or the pregnant doe. So both of the two would not be killed at all that day. And the Buddha to be then asked the king, and we will see here an interesting succession. Dear king, okay, so you have decided not to kill me and not to kill the pregnant doe, but what about the other deers in the flock? And the king agrees, okay, so I don't kill any deers in within the fence. And the Buddha to be says, okay, you don't kill any deers in the fence, but what about the other deers in the forest? And the king says, okay, so I don't kill any deer there as well. And then the Buddha to be says, and what about all the other four-legged creatures? And the king says, okay, so I don't kill any more four-legged creatures. And this way, gradually, the Buddha to be gets the king to decide to make a decree that neither he nor anyone in the kingdom will ever kill a four-legged or two-legged, that means such as birds, nor even fish. So practically or virtually, the Buddha to be made the king and everyone in that land a vegetarian. But not a kind of vegetarian who goes to the shop and gives money to the butcher, but a vegetarian who is also living together with everyone else who are vegetarians. So there is no more killing of any living beings within that kingdom for a long time. So see how the Buddha to be turned a problem into an advantage for everyone. And if it's true that being a vegetarian is healthier, well, then that was an advantage for the humans as well. Okay, so now this was, of course, not the end of the problem. And I like how there's a little bit of like the real thing. Okay, in reality, things usually don't go the way how it is described in stories. And this particular story shows us that resolving one problem doesn't mean resolving problems. So resolving one problem can actually lead to another problem. And that's where we see a little bit of a miracle. So the deer, okay, was not killed anymore, but now, of course, the deer is no more regulated. Like until today, we have special kind of people in the forests, especially in the West, who are there not necessarily to go kill animals and to eat them, but they're there to actually regulate the balance between the different species. Killing is always bad. But now I'm explaining to you that in the Buddha's time, in the time of the Buddha to be, in this particular case, because the deer was not killed by anyone anymore, then they of course started to procreate. They started to multiply, and they were many and many. And as they were many and many, they were hungry. The food in the forest was not enough, so they went up to the gardens of the people, and the people were not happy. So now we have here overpopulated or over-reproduced deer, and they're coming to our gardens. What are we going to do about that? So they told it to the king. The king did not immediately say, okay, you know what, so kill them. But instead, the king consulted with the deer, with the Buddha to be, and they came up with an interesting solution. They took a bamboo pole, or that's what the Buddha to be instructed, to take a bamboo pole and apply a palm leaf on that bamboo pole. This tradition actually is there until today. In India, they apply bamboo poles with bamboo leaf, with a palm leaf, and they erect it somewhere in their field so that deers do not come and eat the crop or the plants. Somehow that works today, and it worked already at those times. And this was the ultimate solution of the problem. Okay, so now we have covered the story of the commentaries, and we will be now looking at what does the sub-commentary tell us in addition to what we have in the story. So the story is available for everybody in English and in Pali. So for that, this course is not really giving anything special, but there is also sub-commentary. As I explained the last class, the sub-commentary is very hard to get. I believe I was very lucky to get the sub-commentary. It's written in Burmese characters. I can read Burmese characters. I can understand Pali in both Romanized and Burmese characters as well. There might be sometimes Burmese glosses as well. So in this sub-commentary, that means an explanation of the commentary, we learn some additional insights. This was written by great distinguished masters in Myanmar, and I would like to make use of this opportunity to share with you this extraordinary special knowledge that we can learn from these glosses. And story in Jatakas that is very well commented upon by the sub-commentary is exactly this one, the story of Nigrodha, Niga, or the deer Nigrodha. The sub-commentary sometimes, as other sub-commentaries, it can provide us with some additional story or ideas or whatever, but that is actually mostly rare. The function of the sub-commentaries is to provide information that you may find somewhere else in the commentaries. The sub-commentaries basically function as a kind of liaison between a commentary and the other Pali texts, which may be somewhere else in other books and a little bit buried, hard to access. So the sub-commentary oftentimes actually contains what's in a commentary, but somewhere else, in a different book. Additionally, sub-commentary provides an insight into the meaning of vocabulary, of the vocabulary used in the commentary. And this is so important. Sub-commentaries were written between the 8th and 18th century after Christ. And in this period, people, or especially monks, were talking in Pali, that is true, but the way how they were talking in Pali, the way how they were using the language was a little bit different than it was in the 5th century before Christ, so 13th or more centuries before that. So the sub-commentaries provide us with a kind of linguistic peek into the Buddha's times Pali language, or we call that Magadhi, and they also provide us with a kind of access to the Buddha's time. So they provide us with this explanation on how was it different in the Buddha's time. I mean, how was the language different in the Buddha's time, so that we do not misunderstand. This is so important for us now in the 21st century, because in the 8th century after Christ, they were 1300 years away from the Buddha. Now we are 2500 years away from the Buddha. So many people don't understand it. They think that they just read the original Pali or original Magadhi language of the Buddha and they will just understand it right away. No, not at all. The Pali language has developed, and the understanding of it as well. So that's why we have these sub-commentaries, so that they allow us to actually understand what happened much, much earlier. Okay, so the sub-commentaries provide us with an extraordinary ability to understand the meanings and the attitudes of the Buddha's time. Even though they were written long, long time after the Buddha, we now live in a much, much later period, and therefore these sub-commentaries are a huge treasure for us. The explanation of the Pati Devata actually comes from the sub-commentaries as well, as one of the vocabulary glosses. And again, the sub-commentary is there explaining or reminding us of certain aspects in the commentary so that we do not unnecessarily miss it, because these are very interesting cues to understand what was actually going on in the Buddha's time. The sub-commentary tells us indeed that the lady was basically taking her husband for a god, but at the same time she was dealing with a kind of dilemma. So on one hand, she is here, the beloved wife of a husband who loves her. She is supposed to serve him, provide him with a pleasurable life through her body, through her actions, and of course the way how she looks like. That's how people get married, according to their look. But she also is clearly understanding the nature of her body. So that's a dilemma. So am I now supposed to be beautiful, or am I now supposed to understand the nature of this body, accept it, and live accordingly? Because if somebody lives according to the understanding of the nature of their body, they will of course not get married, and they would rather become a nun or a monk. So the commentary explains in detail how she considers this body, how she views this body as impure, as repulsive. And this also serves as a pedagogical tool for the monks, because the monks now see, aha, the woman's body is actually repulsive. The woman herself says it. So the woman there, she is discussing the different ways how this body is repulsive, how the different repulsive liquids are escaping from this body, how this body is smeared, or let's say covered by these different liquids, and how inside the body is so repulsive that that we would actually never be attracted to it if we could see it. She then speaks of the skin, how this body is covered by the skin that actually covers the true reality, and that makes us deluded with regards to what is actually happening there. We learn here that there are 80 families of worms in this body. Modern science has found several tens of thousands families of microorganisms in this body. But again, these are 80 families. I've never seen the names of these families. This would be very interesting to find out. But it's true that these microorganisms in this body, some of them, they happen to live in a kind of symbiotic relationship. So they, in a way, they're cleaning the body from certain things. But in fact, they are using their digestive system to help us digest. So they eat the food that we eat, then they excrete it in form of feces, in form of poop and pee, and then this poop and pee is easier for us to digest and to integrate into our cells, or make use of it as an energy source. So there are, however, also many microorganisms that that are parasitic, and that try to only gain some benefit from this body, and for us, in fact, are not good at all. So there are 80 families of worms, and this lady, according to the sub-commentary, is considering how these worms are taking this body as the toilet, and as well as the birthing house, as the place where they can reproduce. Okay, then I basically covered that all. So I think we can go through. I will share with you this presentation. Don't worry about that. So you're not losing anything. Yes, indeed. One thing I did not cover is here, hydraulics, the reality of movement. So she is also considering, again, according to the sub-commentary, she's also considering the interesting nature of the synovial fluid, as well as sweat. We already talked about sweat. The body is covered in sweat, which is combined with dirt. In English, we call that grime. And this grime, this extraordinary dirt, is basically protecting the body, but at the same time, it causes this repulsive nature of the body. A side note here is that actually when the sweat, especially the grease on the face, when it combines with dirt, such as the dirt that you bring in by touching your face, or by touching your face by things that you previously touched by your fingers, that actually creates acne. So acne forms through this grime, through a combination of sweat or grease and dirt. So acne forms simply because this body is exuding, or is covered by self-made sweat or grease, and then in combination with dirt, this dirt and the grease again enter some of the little holes in the skin in the face, and then the body doesn't like that anymore because the dirt is not welcome, and that's when it fights it, and the fight results in dead white cells, and they then accumulate, and that becomes acne. So this grime indeed is not only repulsive, but it's actually dangerous for the body. Regarding the synovial fluid. So synovial fluid is a liquid that's necessary for our joints to work, but considering the synovial fluid can help us better see this body as a kind of machine. A machine that is mechanic. It's not a kind of beauty or something very attractive. Instead, it's just a machine. So we are here not necessarily watching a repulsiveness, but we are here watching the kind of neutral nature. It's neither beautiful nor ugly. It's just a machine. Okay, then we have the mention of the skin. I've already covered that. And now we are at the last slide. We still have 6 minutes. So then an interesting thing here with the deer is how she is actually at the end, because she's saved from the king. You know, everybody is saved. Nobody is going to be killed anymore. So at that time, the deer gives birth. The doe gives birth to the no, forgot how they're called, foal, I think. So she's giving birth to her offspring, and we can take it as her son. And her son, or her offspring, is then playing with the little offspring of the other deer, of the Buddha to be's nemesis, of Devadatta to be's group. So Devadatta to be, the deer there, of course, he's the leader of his group, and there some of the deers, of course, are giving birth to their offspring, and the this newborn deer to be is playing with them. So they're playing together instead of playing with the friends of the Buddha to be. So the mother then admonishes him. She says, it is better to actually die being a friend of the Buddha to be than to live being a friend of the Devadatta to be. Why is this so important? Why is actually death here somehow better than life? So in Buddhism, we do not concentrate necessarily on this very life. We concentrate on the reality in time. And we consider time not only within this life, but also for the past lives and next lives, the future lives. So in this life, even though somebody may live long and they may feel comfortable, if they do things that are not wise, they may suffer next life. So it's very important for us to do the good things, to associate good friends, even if that causes us extraordinary troubles and hardship, because that may result in happiness, at least in the future lives, if not now. And therefore, I am reminded here by the conclusion of the story that indeed associating with good people, with a good friend, Kalyana Mitta, is something that is more important than actually life itself. Because associating with good friends will maybe not lead from my long life now, but it may lead to my long life and a lot of comfortable existence in the future. So that's what we learn here right from the mother, who explains that matang seyo. And this matang seyo is glossed over by the subcommentary, explaining how come that it is seyo, why it is not matang seyang. So they explain that the grammatical conundrum here is caused by the necessity to show that seyo is better than anything else. So it would be seyang, it would decline according to the noun if it is limited to the noun. But when it is better than anything, then it is correct to say seyo, to keep it in the masculine form. Okay, so my time's up. Surprisingly, I made it. And now is your turn. So if you have any questions, now's the time. You can ask me not only about the Nigrodhamiga Jātaka, but if you have any questions also related to something else, that's fine. Of course, I would like to ask you to give a little bit space to those questions related to the Jātaka, and then we can look at anything else. Yes. So I can see here a question about the 7 types of wives. We can read about these 7 types of wives already in the original suttas. Let me actually have it prepared here a while ago. Okay. So the 7 types of wives are roughly divided into 2, and that is the recommended and not recommended. So let's start with those who are not recommended. So that's wife as a killer. So that's a wife who will like to kill the husband or harm the husband. A wife as a thief. So that's the one who takes the property that the husband earns. Now you need to be also careful here with the roles. All right. So I said that the wife there in the story worships the husband, but in most cases of these stories where the wife worships the husband, there are certain duties fulfilled by the husband. And that's why the wife then finds it much easier to respect her husband. And one of the duties is to actually support the family lavishly, richly, sustainably. So if the husband can provide the family with everything and anything they may ever need, especially in terms of material resources, then it's much easier for the wife to appreciate that and to appreciate the husband as well. Now, of course, today in many families, it's actually the wife who goes to the job and the man who stays at home or who plays games all day long. So, of course, that's not the case we are here talking about. We are here specifically talking about a case when the husband is doing the best he can for the family. He's bringing money, food, jewelry to the home. He has achieved very stable residence, such that the family, even if they have many children, they have abundance of everything they would ever need. So at that time, of course, the husband becomes reliable for the wife, and the wife is then appreciative of that because the wife then can fully dedicate herself to the thing that she is supposed to do, and that is to take care of the household, to take care of the children. So here, when we read about these 7 kinds of wives, it's necessary to remind ourselves of the roles that the wives and husbands had in the Buddha's time. I'm not trying to criticize in any way how people live together today. I think it's absolutely unrelated to what we are talking here about. We are talking about the ancient scriptures and the ancient times. So in the ancient times, there were certain roles, expectations, and it worked for some people. And of course, it did not work for some others. And these 7 types of wives are related to that culture. So a wife like a thief, here again, it expects that the husband is the one who provides the family with anything it needs. And that's where you can have a wife who's a thief, because she is taking the things that were meant for household, that were meant for childcare, that were meant for safety. She's taking them and using them for sensual pleasure while not fulfilling her own role, in contrast to her husband, who is then fulfilling his role. So if, for example, it's actually the wife who goes to the job and it's the man who's playing games all day long, then obviously the wife, whatever she does with that money, will never become a thief. So it would be completely irrelevant. A wife like a master, a tyrant. So in this case, we are again hopefully reminded of an interesting cultural trait, and that is that in those times and until today, in many traditional families, including European families, not just in Asia, it is actually common that the husbands dedicate all their money to the wives to take care of them. So the husband's responsibility is to make the money. It's not easy. The wife's responsibility is to use the money. So the husband is making the resources for the family. The woman is using the resources again for the family. So when the wife is thus receiving all of the money, sometimes if the husband is not fulfilling his role to 100%, or if the wife is having higher expectations than what the husband can or wants to fulfill, then of course at that time the wife can become a tyrant. So she can be very unpleasant and dangerous for the husband. Then we have a wife like a mother. So we are now moving on to 4 kinds of wives which are actually appreciated by the Buddha. It seems from our scriptures and Sri Lankan culture that the wife of these 2 types, that means wife like a mother and wife like a servant, is most appreciated. I will later explain why wife as a servant is most appreciated above all of the other 6. So wife as a mother is the one who cares for her husband. I think that's my own philosophy, but let me share it with you so you have something to think about. My philosophy is that when the woman with the man, when they're together, they basically enter this relationship as an exam, as a kind of test. They're testing each other whether the other one would be able to take care of the offspring. So the man is looking at his wife and he's checking whether the wife is taking, or the woman is taking care of the man in an appropriate way for children. So he's checking whether the wife is really caring for him, whether she is doing the things that the children may need. And of course, the wife, the woman, is looking at her husband or at the man and checking whether he is taking care of her sufficiently to show that when they have children, he will be actually caring for them. So this takes me to some interesting conclusions, such as, for example, if the man does not have enough time for the woman, then the woman does not really enjoy the relationship. Not only because she is not getting much from that, but also because she can clearly see that if they have children, the man will not be dedicating his time to the children. If he can't dedicate it to her, how will he dedicate it to their children? The same goes for the woman. If the woman does not care for the man properly, if she does not um, know how to supply the man's needs, then how can the man be sure that when they have children, that she will be able to supply the needs of the children? So that's just my theory. Of course, you can completely reject that. And for me, this wife like a mother is therefore very much appreciated. I've learned in Sri Lanka that this is also very much welcome case when the when the woman shows to the man that indeed she is ready to take care of the children, not only because she thinks so or because she looks like that, but also because she clearly shows it towards her husband, towards the man. A wife like a sister. This of course has many advantages. So there's less of the uh, power difference. But again, the opportunity to check whether each other will be able to take care of the children and provide their needs and provide the necessary love, that opportunity is reduced. A wife like a friend, that's basically like a sister on a lower level, but there is more of the loyalty. There, of course, can be combination. Do not think about yourself. So what kind of wife am I? Or what kind of wife is my wife? So that's not really useful because many wives actually are a combination of several types, and they also can change across time. So there may be a wife who's like a mother at some time, but then she can turn into a killer. So we need to be careful. Uh, One thing, however, that you may have noticed if you're a modern thinking type is that this is about ladies. How about men? Could there be 7 types of husbands? Unfortunately, we do not have that. So if you have any idea what could be the 7 types of husbands or how many they would be, that would be an interesting discussion. But note that this one is from the Buddha. So whatever we write, whatever we think, is not reliable at all. Whatever I tell you, if I make up my list, again, it's not reliable at all, absolutely not comparable to the thoroughness and to the reliability of this list of 7 kinds of wife. Wife as a servant, why is that so important? Because if the wife is the servant to the husband, then the husband will appreciate her. The husband will feel safe. The husband will feel like, oh, there's somebody who's really supporting me in my life. I want to be with that person. So the woman is basically here securing her status in the family. Okay? It seems that in the Buddha's time, it was actually much easier to divorce from a wife than to divorce from a husband. So it was always the wife who was in a kind of precarious situation, especially if she was not doing everything the husband wants. Now, today, interestingly, statistically, we see that it's more of the wives who actually get divorced from the husbands, who kick the husband away. So, of course, today I'd recommend to the gentlemen to be actually more careful because it's actually usually the gentlemen who are removed from the relationship. So, of course, the wife as a servant doesn't really work well today because today it's actually the husband, the men who may like to consider whether they should be the servant. Additionally, in the Buddha's time, when the lady, there was a case where the Buddha is teaching these 7 kinds of wives to a lady, specifically in the Bharya Sutta, Anguttara Nikaya 7. The Buddha then asks the lady who he is talking about these kinds of wives, what kind of wife she wants to be. And she herself says, "Oh Buddha, I want to be the servant wife." So again, the lady is a servant wife, not necessarily because she's afraid that she will be kicked away from the house, but she's also a servant wife because she feels that's fair. The husband is doing everything for this household. He is toiling hard in the field, or he's working hard. He's taking up all the responsibility to help us survive. So let me do my part in the best way I can. So we can see even in the Buddha's time that many ladies themselves, by themselves, even when they were not in danger, they themselves decided to be a servant wife. Simply because they saw, they felt that this is fair towards their husband who is working so hard for the family. Note that in the Buddha's time, many times the husband would not only be there available to provide resources for the family, but he is there also to die for the family. Okay? He's ready there to die for the family. He's ready to do anything and everything so that the family has everything they need. Okay, so that was one question. I can see here some more questions in the chat box. Let's see if we can do at least one more. Why can the deer and many other animals talk to humans? That's a good question. I don't know. I absolutely don't know. It's true that biologically animals are not able to express themselves. So the only explanation I would have would be that they simply understood it. I heard a story of a Burmese monk in Myanmar who was able to understand animals. I'm not really sure whether he really did, but that's what's believed. So if it's possible for certain humans to understand animals, then maybe it was possible for many humans in the Buddha's time. Who knows? Then, are there any classifications for husbands as well? Yeah, that's actually what I already talked about. I'm not aware of them. Yes, the classes of the wives, they're directly given by the Buddha himself. I'd like to ask that how much progress for a layperson nowadays can balance between earnings for living with much difficulties and duties, still can learn and practice Dhamma, if not putting full time for meditation. Is it a good deed for future lives and impossible for us to achieve? We definitely need to do as much as we can. So every day we can dedicate 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes to your time. Oftentimes we spend our time with things that are not as valuable as meditation, such as maybe scrolling TikTok, reading news, maybe talking with friends, going out, eating a little bit more than necessary to survive, whatever else. So you can consider all the other activities that you're doing during the day and see if there is something that you could actually replace by your meditation time. You do not have to meditate in your formal posture that you sit on the floor with crossed legs and hands in the laps and eyes cast down. Not at all. You can actually meditate while you're walking. You can meditate while you're sitting. You can meditate while you're talking with someone. You can meditate while you're doing something. So if you can capitalize on all of these varieties of meditation and make use of your time really effectively, then I'm sure that you will find a plenty of opportunities to actually meditate throughout the day. It might not be a continuous 30 minutes or 60 minutes meditation session, but still it may be great opportunities for your mindfulness and to develop your wisdom in addition to concentration. So yes, this is what I would suggest. I personally believe that getting up earlier and meditating early in the morning is the best solution for this problem. Okay, now here we have 3 more things, and we may have some more things that you don't dare to say as other people are listening here. So I would like to move these questions to our discussion in WhatsApp. I will write answers to them in your summary, into your summary document. So please watch out for that. It will be coming within the next 24 hours. And that's all for today. I'm so happy that we are here meeting in this large number. It seems like that there are many people really curious about the Buddha's teachings, and I hope to share with you a lot more, of course, about a different story. I will tell you also in the summary document later. So thank you very much. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be successful in everything you wish to be successful in. May everybody appreciate what you are doing, and may you have plenty of time to meditate and may be successful on your way towards Nibbana.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you.